Story 1, Red Shirt in the Smokies. The Great Smokies always smelled of rain, pine, and something older than the trees themselves. That morning, the forest shimmered under a silver mist, and the Harper family's laughter echoed through the campground like bright, living things. 9-year-old Ethan Harper was the first to wake, clutching the new compass his father had given him for Father's Day. His younger brother Cody, 6 3/4, he always insisted on the 3/4, was still tangled in his sleeping bag, humming tunelessly. Their mother, Margaret, stood by the fire pit, stirring oatmeal and smiling at the sound of birds. The air was soft with June. "Dad says we can hike up to the overlook after breakfast," Ethan said. "If you can keep up." Cody grinned, revealing the gap where his front tooth used to be. "I can beat you there," he said, pulling on the bright red shirt their mother had sewn from a scrap of American flower cloth. "Don't go running off again," Margaret warned. "That shirt's the only way we'll see you in the woods." Ethan didn't like the shirt. It was too red, the kind of red that didn't belong out here. But Cody loved it. Said it made him feel brave, like Superman. By noon, the family was deep in the forest. The air turned cooler, the trees taller, their trunks dark as iron. A brook chattered nearby, the sound of it weaving through the pines like distant laughter. Cody begged to play hide and seek before they reached the overlook. "Just one round, Ethan," he pleaded. "Dad can count. You find me." Their father, Robert Harper, chuckled and leaned on a birch tree. "All right, soldiers," he said. "You know the rules. No going past the old stone fence. No running downhill. And no climbing trees, Cody. You still got that arm in a sling from last time." Cody saluted dramatically. Ethan rolled his eyes. Robert began to count aloud, his voice booming in the quiet woods. 1, 2, 3. Cody darted off into the trees, the red shirt flashing between shadows. Ethan closed his eyes, listening to his father's voice echo down from 10 to 20. When he opened them again, Cody was gone. Ethan followed the sound of snapping twigs and giggles, his sneakers sinking into moss. "Cody? You're terrible at hiding," he called, trying to sound annoyed instead of uneasy. No answer, only wind sighing through branches. He walked farther, past a fallen log, then another. The forest began to blur together, same trees, same slope, same whispering wind. The compass needle quivered uselessly. Then, faintly, he heard Cody's voice. "Ethan?" Ethan froze. "Cody, where are you?" "Over here," the voice was close. Too close. Yet when Ethan turned, there was only empty forest. He spun in a slow circle. "Stop messing around." Silence. Then Cody's voice again, softer now. "I hear someone calling my name." The words drifted through the trees, as though whispered right beside his ear. Ethan's stomach turned cold. "Cody?" A flash of red caught his eye between two oaks. Ethan ran toward it, branches whipping his arms. But the red wasn't a shirt, it was a strip of fabric, snagged on a thorn bush. The same faded flag material their mother had used. He looked around. The forest had changed, the air heavier, the birds gone silent. The sound of running water had stopped entirely. Ahead, the ground rose toward a ring of ancient stones, moss-covered and half-buried. They stood in a perfect circle, maybe 10 feet across. In the center, the dirt was dark, disturbed recently, as though something had been buried or dug up. "Cody!" Ethan shouted again. His voice came out smaller than he meant. For a moment, he thought he saw movement, the faint shimmer of a child's outline within the ring. But when he blinked, it was gone. Then he heard it, the faint crunch of boots behind him. Ethan turned, expecting his father. Instead, through the trees stood a man in hunting clothes, faded and filthy, his face hidden under a wide-brimmed hat. A rifle slung across his shoulder. His breath came out in a low rasp. "Sir?" Ethan whispered. Have you seen my brother? The man didn't speak. He only tilted his head, slowly, like an animal hearing something far away. His gloved hand tightened around a bundle of red cloth. Ethan's heart stopped. Where did you get that? No answer. The man stepped backward into the shadows, the bundle pressed to his chest, and vanished without a sound. Ethan ran, tripping over roots, calling his brother's name until his throat tore. When he burst from the trees, his parents were already shouting, panic in their voices. They searched until nightfall. The rangers came. Dogs. Flashlights cutting through fog. But there was no sign of Cody Harper. Only a set of small footprints leading to that circle of stones, and stopping cold. 30 years later, the forest hadn't changed. Ethan Harper stood at the trailhead once more, now a man of 39, silver streaks at his temples. He carried a metal detector in one hand, a folded photograph in the other, Cody in his red shirt, smiling gaped against the summer sun. Every Father's Day, Ethan came back. Every year, the forest felt hungrier. The park had long since closed that section after unexplained disappearances. Locals whispered about the Cherokee spirits that guarded the old burial rings, doorways, they said, between worlds. Ethan didn't believe in ghosts. But he believed in the sound of his brother's voice. He still heard it sometimes, soft, just at the edge of wind. That afternoon, his detector chirped. A faint signal beneath a patch of disturbed soil near the old stone circle. Ethan dropped to his knees, digging carefully. The earth was soft, freshly turned, as though someone, or something, had been there recently. Then he saw it, a small metal button, red enamel chipped, engraved faintly with the letters CH. Cody Harper. Ethan stared, breath shuddering. Oh, God. Behind him, leaves shifted. The sound of slow, deliberate steps. He rose, flashlight trembling in his hand. The beam sliced through the mist, landing on footprints, small ones, half filled with water. Child-sized. Leading from the trees to the ring. And there, within the stones, something red moved, the faint shimmer of fabric in the fog. Cody? Ethan whispered. The red shape turned. For a moment, Ethan saw a face, pale, eyes hollow, mouth caked with soil. His brother, just as he'd been at 6. Ethan, the boy said softly. You came back. Ethan took a step forward, tears flooding his eyes. It's really you. Cody tilted his head, the way the hunter had once done. We play again now. The mist surged inward, swallowing the stones, the trees, the sound. The forest breathed. When park rangers followed the sound of Ethan's metal detector alarm hours later, they found nothing but disturbed earth and the faint glint of a new button, half buried beside the old one, this one engraved EH. Weeks later, the campground's security camera recorded motion near the trail gate at 2:17 a.m. A tall man in outdated hunting gear crossed the frame, carrying a bundle wrapped in red cloth. In the stillness that followed, if you turned the volume all the way up, you could hear it. A child's voice, faint, distant, calling a single name through the trees. Ethan. Story 2, Violets for Mama. The wind in the dales never really stopped. It rolled down from the moors like a living thing, sighing through heather, brushing past stone walls, whispering names that no one had spoken in years. That morning, Millie Whitlock, 11 years old, tried to keep her little sister Poppy from running too far ahead. But Poppy was all motion, her red wool hat bobbing between the rocks like a lantern flame. Wait for me! Millie shouted. Poppy giggled, clutching her small wicker basket. Can't. I saw violets. Mama loves violets. Millie glanced toward the farmhouse down the hill, smoke curling from the chimney. Their mother was inside, pale and tired, still recovering from a winter fever that had nearly taken her. This was their first Mother's Day since she'd fallen ill, and both girls wanted it to be special. Don't go near the ridge, Millie called. It drops off past the wall. Poppy stopped, just long enough for Millie to see her grin, cheeks flushed. eyes bright blue beneath the hat's red tassels. "You bossy, like Papa," she teased. Millie scowled, but smiled despite herself. "Come on, you little bug." The dale stretched endlessly around them, rolling green hills stitched with grey stone fences, the air thick with the scent of damp earth. To the north lay the woods. The locals called them Eldergate Copse, though the old men in town whispered another name, the Whispering Vale. Millie didn't like that place. The trees there leaned too close together, their branches tangled like arms trying to hold something in. By noon, the girls had filled half a basket with violets. Poppy's hat glowed against the grey sky, the red tassel swaying as she ran ahead toward a small limestone outcrop. "Bet I can find more on the other side," she chirped. 30 seconds. Millie called. "Then you come back." Poppy disappeared behind the rocks. Millie knelt to tie her bootlace, counting aloud. 1, 2, 3. When she reached 30, she smiled, expecting Poppy to jump out and shout boo. But the only sound was the wind. "Poppy?" Millie called, peering around the rocks. No answer. The violets trembled in the breeze. Millie stepped closer. Something red caught her eye, lying against the stones. Poppy's hat. It had rolled to a stop beside the limestone wall, one tassel caught on a thorn. There was a dark stain along the edge, not much, but enough. Blood. "Poppy!" Millie screamed, her voice breaking. She scrambled over the rocks, heart pounding, calling until her throat burned. Nothing but wind. She stumbled farther, past the wall, where the ground dipped toward the tree line of Eldergate Copse. The forest loomed, ancient oaks and birch, roots twisting like veins. A narrow animal path led inside, the mud freshly disturbed by small footprints. Millie followed. Inside the forest, the light changed. The air felt colder, the sounds muffled, as though the trees drank up every noise. "Poppy?" Silence. Then, a sound. Faint. A song. Someone was humming, high, tuneless, childlike. Millie crept closer, every step deliberate. She saw movement up ahead, the shape of a small figure crouched near a cave mouth, half hidden under ivy. "Poppy!" she cried, a relief flooding her. The figure didn't move. As Millie approached, her stomach turned. It wasn't Poppy. It was a doll, old, mud-caked, its porcelain face cracked. Its dress was torn, faded red. Behind it, the cave yawned open, and narrow fissure breathing cold air that smelled of damp and something else, iron, maybe. Inside, the humming continued. Millie pressed a trembling hand to the stone wall. "Who's there?" The humming stopped. Then, softly, impossibly, she heard her sister's voice. "Millie? I'm in here." Her breath caught. "Poppy! Stay where you are, I'm coming." She ducked into the cave. The passage was narrow and slick, forcing her to crawl. The deeper she went, the colder it grew, until her breath came out in mist. The sound of dripping water echoed, plink, plink, plink. Then, whispers. Faint, layered, overlapping voices. "Children." Millie froze. The walls were smeared with something dark, like soot or dried mud, but when her fingers brushed it, the smell hit her, blood. Handprints, small, child-sized, streaked across the stone. A sob escaped her throat. "Poppy?" Silence. Then, right behind her ear, in that same small voice. "I told you I'd find more violets." Millie turned, but there was only darkness. They found her hours later, stumbling out of the forest, clothes torn, shaking, clutching the red hat to her chest. Her father's face went white. He gathered her up, but Millie couldn't stop crying long enough to explain. The police came, then the constables, then a search party with dogs. They combed Eldergate Copse until dawn. The dogs tracked the scent straight to the cave Millie had entered. Inside, they found the doll, sitting neatly upright, and dozens of small handprints in dried blood. but no sign of Poppy. One of the men, Sergeant Hewson, swore he saw movement deeper inside, a flicker of red light that vanished when his torch hit it. By the next day, word spread that an escaped vagrant had been seen near the woods, a man named Edgar Lawton, once arrested for child abduction in 1947. But records showed Lawton had died 3 days earlier in a workhouse 50 miles away. The investigation folded into rumor. The cave was sealed off. The Whitlocks left Yorkshire within the month. But Millie never forgot the sound, her sister's voice in the dark, the whisper that wasn't echoing but answering. 70 years later, the moors were quieter. The farmhouse was gone, its stones reclaimed by grass. Only the foundation remained, and a single crumbling well. Amelia Whitlock Roberts, now 81, stood at the edge of Aldergate Copse. The forest still breathed the same cold air. She'd returned to lay flowers, violets, freshly picked, on what would have been her mother's birthday. The cave entrance, long collapsed, now sat behind a fence and warning sign, danger, unstable ground. But Millie didn't come to see the cave. She came because she'd received a letter, unsigned, written in a childish scrawl. I found more violets, Millie. Come see. P. She told herself it was a cruel prank. But part of her, the part that still dreamed of red hats and humming voices, needed to know. She set the bouquet down near the fence, the petals trembling in the wind. Then she saw something move between the trees, a small shape, darting just out of sight. Hello, she called softly. Is someone there? No answer. Just the sighing of the wind through branches. Then she heard it. That same tune, the one Poppy used to hum while picking flowers. Millie's heart twisted. Poppy? The humming grew louder, circling her like the wind itself. The ground near the fence gave a soft crunch, and something rolled out from beneath the leaves. A child's doll. Cracked porcelain face. Red dress. And beside it, a small wool hat, perfectly preserved, red with twin tassels, one edge stained dark. Millie bent to pick it up, tears clouding her vision. The wool was cold but dry, as though someone had just set it there. Behind her, the forest seemed to inhale. Millie, a voice whispered. She turned. Standing at the tree line was a child, no older than 6, eyes wide and hollow. Her hair, golden and tangled. Her smile too still. Poppy? Millie whispered. The girl's head tilted slightly, the same way Poppy used to when teasing. I found more violets, she said. Come and see. Millie's tears fell freely. She took one unsteady step forward. Is it really you? Poppy nodded, extending a tiny hand. The red tassel of her hat brushed against her cheek. As Millie reached out, a sudden gust swept through the dales, the kind that carried voices. For a brief, trembling second, she saw them all, a dozen children in the shadows behind Poppy, their faces pale, their clothes tattered, their hands streaked red. Watching. Waiting. The wind roared, and the world went white. A week later, hikers found a small bouquet of violets placed neatly by the fence at Aldergate Copse. Beside it lay a red wool hat, and beneath it, half buried in soil, a single child's handprint, perfectly preserved in the mud. Locals say that on cold spring mornings, you can still hear humming from the forest, a soft, endless lullaby. If you follow it, they say, it always stops near the old cave. And if you leave flowers, violets, specifically, sometimes they're gone the next day. Replaced by something red. Story 3, Crater Lake's Last Game. The fog over Crater Lake had a way of swallowing sound. Even laughter, even a child's voice, vanished too quickly. That morning, Nathan Brooks thought it would be good for both of them to get some air. Just a father and son weekend. No phones. No distractions. No arguments with his wife about therapy schedules or medication doses. 8-year-old Liam Brooks sat quietly in the backseat, tracing his finger along the fogged window as pine trees flickered by. His sneakers, bright red with blinking lead soles, flashed faintly every time his heel tapped the floor. "Look at that," Nathan said as they reached the overlook. "Highest lake in the country. Over 1,000 feet deep." Liam didn't look up. "Deep," he echoed softly. Nathan smiled, ruffling his son's hair. "You bet. Deep enough to hide whole mountains." The campground was almost empty, late in the season, too cold for tourists. Only one other car in the lot, an old brown pickup, windows fogged. They unpacked, built a small fire, roasted marshmallows. By dusk, the lake had turned to glass, perfectly still, reflecting the bruised sky. "Hide and seek?" Liam asked suddenly. Nathan laughed. "You? The master hider? Fine. But I'm counting to 20. Liam grinned, a rare, quick spark. His sneakers blinked red-blue-red. "You count loud, Dad." "Like always." Nathan covered his eyes and began. 1, 2, 3. The wind picked up, sweeping ash from the fire. When he reached 20 and opened his eyes, the clearing was empty, just the soft blinking of Liam's red shoes flickering behind a fallen log. "Ready or not," Nathan called, smiling. "Here I come." The game was on. Nathan moved through the mist, calling softly. "Liam? I see those shoes, buddy." No reply, just the gentle pulse of the red LEDs, fading between tree trunks. "Okay, you win." "Game's over." Still nothing. The fog thickened until the trees became silhouettes. Then, a sound. Laughter. Faint, high-pitched, distant, but not Liam's. Nathan stopped. "Hello?" No answer. He turned toward the cliff edge where the fog hung heaviest. Through it, he saw a faint red glimmer, about 60 feet up the rock face, the impossible height where no child could climb. The glimmer blinked twice, red, then went dark. Nathan's stomach dropped. "Liam!" He sprinted toward the ledge, shouting his son's name. The ground gave way to gravel and sharp rock. When he reached the edge, he looked down into pure white void. No sound. No splash. Just fog, endless, shifting fog. Panic surged. He called again, voice cracking. "Liam! Answer me!" A shape moved behind him, tall, grey, wrong. He spun, flashlight beam cutting through the mist. A figure stood between the trees, at least 7 feet tall, wrapped in an old parka, face hidden beneath a hood. The air around it shimmered slightly, as if heat distorted the cold. Nathan froze. "Who are you?" The figure didn't move. Something about the stillness felt wrong, like gravity around it was heavier. Then, without a sound, it lifted one arm and pointed toward the cliff edge. "Liam!" Nathan shouted again. When he turned back, the figure was gone. By sunrise, the entire park was crawling with search teams. Rangers, dogs, volunteers, a drone unit from the local sheriff's office. Nathan sat on a log near the campsite, shivering in his jacket, staring at the empty space where his son had last stood. They found no footprints past the cliff, only disturbed gravel. As if Liam had simply stepped out of existence. A ranger crouched beside Nathan. "Sir, your boy's shoes, they had lights, right?" Nathan nodded weakly. The ranger frowned. "We picked something up on the drone footage." They showed him the thermal video. The drone swept across the ridge, then paused, a faint red blinking, moving upward along the cliff face, far above ground. Then the light stopped beside a taller, colder shape standing motionless in the fog. The feed glitched. The two figures, small and large, seemed to blur together before vanishing completely. Nathan's heart went hollow. "That's him," he whispered. "That's my son." The ranger shook his head. "There's no way anyone climbed that high." On the 7th day, a cold front swept in. Snow fell over the ridge. The search was called off. That's when they found it. A single red sneaker, tangled in the high branches of a pine tree, 15 meters up, no footprints below, no sign of a climb. The lead still blinked weakly, one final pulse before dying. A year passed. Then 2. Then 5. Every October, Nathan returned to Crater Lake. He hiked the same trail, set up the same tent, waded through the same fog. Locals started calling him the Walker. They'd see his flashlight on the cliffs at night, sweeping through the mist. He always left the same thing behind, a pair of red sneakers, neatly placed near the overlook, facing the lake. On the 7th year, he brought something new, an old camcorder, hoping to record whatever took his son. That night, the fog rolled in early. Nathan sat by the fire, whispering, "Come on, Liam, please." The forest answered with silence. Then, faintly, the sound of footsteps crunching over snow. Nathan grabbed the camera and turned toward the sound. From the trees emerged a child, barefoot, wearing a torn red jacket. His hair plastered to his forehead. His expression blank. Nathan's breath hitched. "Liam?" The boy blinked slowly. "You found me." Nathan stumbled forward, dropping to his knees. "Oh, God, Liam, where have you been? Are you hurt?" The boy tilted his head, voice flat. "He showed me the lake. It's deep." Nathan froze. "Who?" The boy's eyes drifted past him, toward the fog-shrouded water. "He says it's your turn to count." And before Nathan could move, the boy stepped backward into the mist. His body dissolved like smoke, leaving only the faint blinking of red light reflected on the fog. Nathan ran after him, shouting, crying, until the ground disappeared beneath his feet. Days later, hikers found Nathan's camcorder near the edge of the cliff. The footage, though damaged, captured just enough. Timestamp, October 14, 2013, 10:22 p.m. Nathan whispering, "Please come back." Fog thickening, shapes moving behind the trees. A figure emerging, tall, grey, faceless. Nathan's voice, "Who are you?" The figure lowering its head toward him,